Folks, welcome into That Betting Show, May 27, 2019, Memorial Day edition, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs, right in between your barbecues and your beer. Let's get it started today. He's Teddy Sabranti. Give him a follow at Teddy_Covers. I'm Donnie Seymour, right side VP. Teddy, hot topics of the day. Let's get right to it. The finals starting up on Thursday. The Raptors take 4 straight games from the Milwaukee Bucks in an upset. If we take a look at some key injury information, Kevin Durant, not too sure when he's going to come back, hasn't resumed on-court activities yet. DeMarcus Cousins, Teddy, a little bit closer to returning, but we are gamblers. And you got a little bit of an interesting situation right now. Heavy favorite, Teddy, Golden State Warriors, even though they are the road team in the finals. But the Raptors favored by 1 to start game 1. Interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a whole lot. We saw this happen once already this postseason. That was Oklahoma City against Portland in the first round, where the Blazers were favored for game 1, but the Thunder were favored in the series. We all know how that turned out. OKC, not much of a challenge for Portland in that series. So the team that was favored in game 1 won the series, and the team that lost, or the team that was favored for the series, despite being dogs in game 1, did nothing. Now, obviously, with Golden State, 3 championship rings already. Toronto, a team that, look, they're happy to be here. No shock that the Warriors are the chalk in this series, but we have seen a fair bit of line movement on this one. We'll discuss in just a minute. It's worth noting, Toronto's 8-man rotation that they went with in Game 6 of the Bucs series, not a single player drafted in the lottery in that 8-man rotation. It's all guys at the end of the first round, second round. Van Vliet's an undrafted free agent for Toronto. So when you're thinking about the draft and, get all the best players in the draft, no, not always. It's not necessarily about getting the lottery picks, about getting the right guys. The Raptors have done an excellent job of putting talent together despite not a single lottery pick amongst their core group of players.
Also, let's not forget that Andre Iguodala also probable to start the series, which you said will get underway on Thursday. We'll add to it as it goes right here on That Betting Show throughout the week, getting you ready for the NBA Finals. If we take a look, Teddy, a little bit of Major League Baseball action today, which is going to rule the day. The AL Central, is it over before we even start the month of June? If you would have asked both me and you, Teddy, before the season, hey, it could be over. Yeah, well, Indians are going to walk away with this thing. Good bats, solid pitching, not a lot going on in the rest of the division. But it's the Twins, Teddy, winners of 11 and 12. That's going to coincide with the Indians, who are losers of 6 of 7. A 10-game lead, Teddy, in the division before, as we said, even starting in the month of June. If we took a look before the season, the Indians were minus 400, Teddy, to win this division. If we take a look now, how about this flip? The Twins now minus 400 to win this division.
As they should be. And look, I went on ESPN radio here in Las Vegas. Might have been opening day or opening week. They said, the AL Central's over already. Doesn't matter. Cleveland's already won the division. Not so fast, my friends. And here we are, Memorial Day, and it's a 10-game lead for Minnesota in this division, which means that a team with an enormous payroll like the Indians, they don't think they're going to be in it. They could be sellers at the deadline. I've heard Trevor Bauer to Minnesota rumors. Remember, this Twins team was a wild card team in 2007, and last year they were a major disappointment. That certainly has not been the case in early betting action in 2019. No team more profitable than the Twins to support thus far. And frankly, given their starting pitching, unless they get a guy like Bauer, Minnesota likely to continue to be a profitable team to support because their starting pitching, by and large, doesn't attract the type of wise guy action that some of the high-price starters tend to do.
Teddy, we watched some of these teams here because you saw the Seattle Mariners right now in a funk, got out to that hot start, unexpected, didn't see it coming, and quickly fell to the basement of the AL West. Now, we're taking a look at the Central Division, and I want to talk about maybe some buying options here that we're looking at because we all anticipated the Indians, being that front-running team or at least winning that division as the summer went along. They're now 10 games back. Is there any viability in saying, you know what? Look, the Twins weren't supposed to be here. Yes, they have a 10-game lead. Statistically, it's probably going to be pretty tough to blow a 10-game lead, but we've seen some crazy instances here. Is this a buying shot on the Indians just when you're going to say, you know what? I'll wait and see till maybe they close the gap till 5 to see if they're viable because you're right. Before you can even make up all that, let's just say they hang around and it's a 6 or 7-game lead. It's a good chance. You're right. The Indians are sellers. Are they maybe a buying option here if you're looking for value or just completely a no here?
Is plus 260 value on Cleveland right now?
Not minus
I'm
10.
not convinced that it is, to win the division. And I understand there's a long way, more than 100 games to be played for both teams remaining in this season. And only 10 games to make up and plenty of opportunities for the Indians to get hot and knock off Minnesota and, take that 10-game lead and turn it into a deficit. Yes, that the potential is there. But plus 260? It's not like you're getting this great price on Cleveland. Plus 600, I'm interested. Plus 260, not so much.
Teddy, walking up and down the strip here, Stanley Cup Finals, we saw it last year. The hometown guys, quote unquote, rooting against the Vegas Golden Knights. Now we see an interesting one here. When the Bruins are the favorites, usually when we see like, oh man, we really need the underdog to come through. Not so much here with the favorite in the series, the Boston Bruins. A couple big tickets out there are lying with the St. Louis Blues. And it's interesting that the house, Teddy, rooting for the dog in this situation. Rooting for the favorite, it looks like here.
Yeah, and it has everything to do with the fact that the Blues were priced. I mean, I saw 300 to 1. There weren't many 300 to 1s out there. But there were 250 to 1s and 200 to 1 tickets, and plenty of those tickets written. What was it, late December into January through the All-Star break where St. Louis was an afterthought. At one point, they had the worst record in the league. And it doesn't take a ton of tickets to get written at 200 to 1 or 250 to 1 for the books to face enormous liability. In theory, they're only supposed to hang the 200 and 250 and 300 to 1s on teams that have no chance. Looks like St. Louis has a chance. Books all up and down the strip, as you mentioned, will be big Bruins fans for this series. Although, frankly, from a game-by-game basis, no surprise here if it's a bad result for the books either way, because you can already see and feel the sense there's going to be Boston money coming in from public bettors. So you have the long-term liability on the one side and the action coming in on the other side on a game-by-game basis. This doesn't feel like a real great Stanley Cup Finals for the bookmakers here in Vegas.
Yeah, it starts up tonight here on Memorial Day, Teddy, 8 p.m. Eastern time. If we take a look at some of the odds here at SBRodds.com, Pinnacle opened up around minus 160. Chris minus 165 has peeled back a little bit. So we're looking at maybe some minus 145s across the board. Total, which opened up at 5.5, Teddy, now seeing some 5s. So maybe some defensive hockey to start out the series. Now, it is Memorial Day, Teddy. Most people are on holiday here observing, the veterans out there that gave so many parts of their lives here in order for us to have the freedom that we do today. But, Teddy, I had to rise up today. I had to get ready and said, you know what? The good people out there watching the show really need my energy today on the Philadelphia Eagles 2019 season team preview. How about this, Teddy? 16-1 to win the 2019 championship, 7-1 to win the NFC. And the team total, now keep in mind here, this is DraftKings out of New Jersey, which is legal sportsbook. 9.5 is the team total, Teddy. Having a little bit of juice on that one with minus 162. Finished in second place last year, 9-7. You saw it throughout the season, 4-2 overall in the division. Carson Wentz comes back from the knee injury, gets the broken back situation. They rest him. Doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs. They get a miracle at the end of the year with Nick Foles. And then Alshon Jeffrey drops a pass inside the 20-yard line with around 2 minutes to go against New Orleans to seal their fate. But moving forward, added some power at defensive tackle this year with Malik Jackson to go along with Fletcher Cox. They did lose. However, Jordan Hickson's a middle linebacker, but got a Pro Bowl, or perennial Pro Bowl, I should say, with Zach Brown from the Washington Redskins. The team has everything they need loaded up on the offensive side of the ball. The question mark's going to be, and it's not that bad of a question mark for the Philadelphia Eagles to me, Teddy, is if Carson Wentz is going to play well. We've seen what he can do. Rookie season, decent. Second year, phenomenal. On his way to an MVP season before going down with the knee injury versus the Los Angeles Rams. Last year, a little bit up and down, but this team is built to win. It's built to win now. They have a decent division. The only caveat here, Teddy, which I always get mad at the schedule makers here, the first thing I look at when the schedule comes out is if my team plays a road Thursday night game. For the third straight year in a row, the Philadelphia Eagles will be on the road in September versus the Green Bay Packers on a Thursday night. But a key point of interest here, Teddy, the last 2 years the Eagles have been on a Thursday night game. They beat the Carolina Panthers and beat the New York Giants. So maybe it's not so much a bad thing here.
Yeah, maybe not. Although I remember betting against Philly when Andy Reid came to town on a Thursday night in his first trip back from when he joined KC, and that was an easy one. I love that bet. All that being said, this is an Eagles team. They won the Super Bowl following the 2017 season. They were a wild card team last year. They won a game in the postseason, beat the Bears. They lost, as you mentioned, a tight game with New Orleans. But we're talking about a team that has a clear playoff pedigree. We expect Philadelphia to be dancing around the playoff picture again this year. Last year, minus 0.2 yards per play. You don't see that out of a lot of playoff teams. Their statistical profile wasn't great. Minus 0.8 yards per rush. They did not run the football well. They did not stop the run well either. Last year, Carson Wentz with a 102 quarterback rating, opposing QBs just a 94. Philly made the playoffs despite a minus 6 turnover margin last year. They also made the playoffs despite the fact that their schedule was one of the toughest in the NFL. If you actually grade out the teams based on their power rating number on the week the game was played, Eagles top 3 in terms of toughest schedule a season ago. This year, that's not the case. NFC North, AFC East, 2 extra games, Falcons and the Seahawks. The division's not that tough. It is a significant strength of schedule drop-off between what they faced last year, one of the toughest, and this year. On paper, based on this year's season win totals, one of the easiest. That matters. How good is Wentz going to be? That's my only question for Philadelphia. Can he last a full season without getting hurt? Last year, again, 11 games only, but he just threw 7 picks in those 11 games. And look, you bring in a guy like Andre Dillard to solidify the offensive line. You talked about the signings and Malik Jackson and Deshaun Jackson. Bring back Darby and Jernigan, 2 key defensive pieces. And I know you lose Golden Tate, and I know you lose Nick Foles. Jordan Hicks, another key loss for Philadelphia. But on paper, this team looks every bit as good as they did last year against a weaker schedule than they faced last year. How about this, Donnie? I like your Eagles going into 2019. If I'm betting them, I would only bet them over the total based on season wins.
Beautiful. See, that's exactly why I came to work here Memorial Day, Teddy. I knew you would cheer me up with some information like that. If you want a really good follow during the season, make sure you follow my Twitter account there, because I do live and die on every play, even though Teddy says, you know what, take the fandom out of it when you wager. Yes, I do bet against my Philadelphia Eagles. Don't do it a lot, but look, the money, even though the Eagles are green, Teddy's like to say, money is green as well. Spends both ways in that. Let's get a little bit of Major League Baseball action in here. SBRodds.com, the best place on the internet to go through and check these line movements. How about this one, Teddy? Those Red Hot Twins we were just talking about. How about Gio Gonzalez, the old Sage veteran out there? Open up at plus 112. Teddy, I'm looking at SBRodds.com right now. Now sitting at minus 112. Brewers, Twins, Gonzalez, Pineda, total of 9.5. Cooler conditions here in Minnesota. A little bit of rain and the wind blowing in, but those Brewers are a favorite.
Yeah, sure. And, of course, Minnesota enters the game with the best record in baseball. They're 36-16. They're on fire. They've won 11 of the last 12, including 6 in a row. They're 19-6 in the month of May. They've hit 54 homers this month. They lead the MLB in batting average, 273. Home runs, 104. Slugging percentage, 520. OPS, 863. Runs scored, 315. And run differential, plus 111. Do the markets care? No. They don't care. They don't care one bit. All they care is the starting pitching matchup, and that's what the money's coming in on the less hot of these 2 teams for. It's certainly a surprise to me. I don't get it. Minnesota's playing good ball. Milwaukee isn't, but it's all about the starting pitching matchups. This isn't the only one we're going to talk about where a surprising team taking money in early betting action on Monday.
We're not going to talk about a surprise here yesterday, Teddy's. You won on the Oakland Athletics and got my head kicked in the back of the head when I took those Seattle Mariners yesterday on the road with Mike Leake. Now heading back home. Hey, Teddy, when you want to stop a losing streak, when you're not playing that well, how about you send your ace to the mound today? Well, it looks like the Mariners are doing that with Tommy Milone on the mound. Now, before you get a little bit of a chuckle at that, Lance Lynn's going to oppose him. Teddy, looking at SBRodds.com, another interesting situation. The favorite opens up as Texas, but when we see that ace, Tommy Milone on the mound, we now have the Mariners favored by minus 128 here today.
Yeah, and again, current form, no piece of the equation when it comes to these overnight line moves in MLB. It's all about starting pitching matchups. Look, the Mariners are now 2-17, their last 19 on the highway after losing again yesterday. But they went 3-3 in the last homestand. Remember that 13-2 start? They're 10-30 since. But the markets are fading last limb every game. You know, Rangers had won 8 out of 9. They just had 2 straight losses, 2 straight bullpen losses against the Angels. That might be a sign. And, of course, Lynn is coming off a 120-pitch effort in his last outing against the same Mariners squad. But, boy, he's owned this team. Struck out 20 in 14 innings, giving up 3 runs, 10 hits, 4 walks against them so far this season. Lynn's pitched well against Seattle twice. You know, it's not like Malone's not a tired retread. 2 runs, 3 hits, and 5 innings against Texas last time out. But the market's like he had his strikeout pitch going. The velocity was there for Malone. Struck out 6, walked only 1. Hence, the Seattle money today, despite their current struggles.
Always fun to take a look at Game 1 of the NBA Finals here today. The Raptors actually flipped to a favorite in Game 1. We talked about it a little bit earlier. We'll delve into it a little bit now as well. Raptors favored by -1, even though they were opened up at +1, and still a prohibitive underdog in the series despite holding home court. It'll take place on Thursday night, a total 215 money line split, right around even where you'd think it'd be -105, -115. And I also want to talk, Teddy, because you're going to go over a couple numbers here. The value on the series here, because it sort of boggles the mind saying, wait a second, if you have one side that's almost a 3-1 favorite, why are they even getting points in game one? We talked about it before last week on the show, the rested and ready Golden State Warriors, been there, done that, versus a Raptors team that's hot. But now, look, we're talking about a hot team, Teddy, not playing on like a Sunday and then flipping around playing on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. They're going to get a couple days off here. Are we going to ride the hot streak so far with the Raptors, or is there a reason why that line flipped from Golden State to a favorite over to the Raptors as a favorite?
It's an interesting line move, and it shows that there is, without a doubt, some wise guy support for the underdog in this series, despite the fact that the Golden State is a two-time defending champs. 3 of the last 4 years, they've brought home the hardware, and the one year they didn't, they were in the finals as well. What the markets don't appear to like is a long layoff for Golden State. We talk about a 10-day layoff. That's significant at this time of the year. And, of course, the Raptors are 8-2 straight up at home in the playoffs, 7-3 against the spread. One of them was a, lucky cover in game 3 against Milwaukee, where they covered in double overtime. But nonetheless, they've been making money for their backers, although their history of game 1 failures looms large for this one. And it's worth noting, where Toronto was able to survive and advance past Milwaukee, despite a no-show series from Danny Green. Danny Green was 6 of 32 from the field. He didn't make a 3-point shot in the last 3 or 4 games of that series. They're going to need Danny Green to step up from game 1. You can't put Van Vliet and Lowry on the floor together against Golden State's bigger guards. I think that'll be a problem. So they're going to need something from Danny Green. And the market's saying, watch out for him in the finals. He's had his fair share of success in NBA Finals past.
Yep, we'll build that up while you're between those barbecues out there today, getting some sun in. Teddy's not getting any sun in out there, 57 degrees in Las Vegas. It's 80 degrees on the East Coast. For once, Teddy might be looking at moving back to the East Coast. Watch what you bet here on Memorial Day. Battle of the Aces, Teddy. Jacob deGrom's going to take the mound versus Clayton Kershaw tonight at 8:10 Eastern Time, live from Dodger Stadium. And how about this, Teddy? If you're looking to maybe get one of those little underdog prices here, Dodgers sitting at -175 on SBRodds.com, a total of 6.5. Mets are 26-26 on the season. Dodgers are 35-18. Teddy, I would love to break this game down, but whatever I would break this down with the Mets, regardless, would go exactly opposite. I'm going to lean on you today to cover this game.
Well, I mean, right now when Kershaw's on the hill, there's no thought process of it. All right, yeah. He's 7 previous starts this year. He's got a 3.33 ERA. That's his highest for a full season since his rookie year. But the Dodgers are 7-0, and Clayton Kershaw 7 starts this season. They closed out last year, winning each of his last 8 starts. So that's 15 consecutive wins in games started by Clayton Kershaw. They win for their guy. Kershaw against the Mets, 8-0 with a .198 ERA and 13 ERAs. And this LA offense, they're a different animal right now. They're better than anyone else in the National League by margin. In fact, that's a quote from Mac Muncy. I think it's a different animal than last year, talking about the lineup. Last year, we relied pretty heavily on the home run. This year, we're able to produce runs in a different manner. That's making us a more complete team and a more dangerous team. I concur. Of course, not easy to lay this price against deGrom, who showed last time out that he was back to normal, against the Nats, 1 run, 2 hits, 6 innings, 8 strikeouts. But he's never beaten the Dodgers, 0-4 in 8 career starts against them, although it's a Mets team that got going last week after Callaway didn't get fired. They won 6 of their last 7. The strength of competition a little bit tougher this time around. You can't fade the Dodgers with Kershaw on the hill. If he loses, he loses. But when they're 15-0 in his starts, Dodgers are pass for this better.
Yeah, it is a travel day for them, but they blistered Archer yesterday. We'll see if they get back to it. We'll keep it in California for the second half of our double header here on That Betting Show. Watch what you bet. Athletics look to stay hot versus the Angels, but we're seeing a nice little significant line drop here. A's were favored by as high as 165, 170 out there. Now sit around -144 with a total of 9. Cahill versus Bassett out on the line today.
Yeah, there's some concerns about Bassett. Bassett, last 2 starts, he threw 8 innings of shutout ball against Detroit. And then last time out, couldn't get out of the 4th against Cleveland, walked 6 batters, allowed 2 home runs, and was literally in trouble every inning in that contest. The A's won both of those games, but Bassett, off that last start, that was a red flag and a half. and the market's showing signs of that. And the Angels come in with some positive momentum, back-to-back rally from behind wins. They got a walk-off win on Saturday night. They overcame a 5-1 deficit yesterday. Positive momentum for a team that hasn't had a whole lot of positive momentum. Of course, it was supposed to be a bullpen game for the Angels, but Pena ended up pitching, who was supposed to be the starter, ended up pitching, so then Cahill gets the go. Brad Ausmus, this is a concerning quote from me. We're going to have to figure out the starting rotation moving forward a little bit, but the only thing we can control is today's game. I feel like it'd help us win the game once we got the lead, which Pena did. I'm not convinced Cahill's the right answer here, and I'm surprised he's taking money against a red-hot Oakland team that has won very quietly 9 games in a row.
Teddy, we'll end the day on an off-the-mic subject that came up today, and I had to scratch my head when I read it. Thought it might have been an Onion article, but it was prominent right on ESPN.com. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Teddy, sued for damages from the 2010 oil spill. Now, last time I checked, Raymond James Stadium, their practice facility, not located in the Gulf of Mexico. Matter of fact, they're 360 miles away where the oil spill began. You know what they were seeking, Teddy? Not like, hey, we had a barge out there that we were using for some of our training facilities. We want like $30,000 because it got ruined. How about $20 million they sued for out there? When the getting's good and money's out there, Teddy, the lawyers will come in, but I can't even believe they were suing. I don't know, maybe Jamie Swinson was a fisherman in the offseason, or Mike Evans was a fisherman and they couldn't go out and catch fish. But this was an interesting article, to say the least.
Well, the court found that the Bucs' revenue in May and June of 2010 was not significantly lower than its revenue during that same span a year later. And to qualify for damages, they had to show that their revenues had rebounded by at least 10% higher in 2011. They couldn't show that. Therefore, the case goes bye-bye. All that being said, and we talk about the legal system, and look, if I've got a good team of lawyers and I've got an oil company, BP is writing checks, hell yeah, I'm going to put a claim in. Let's see what you can come up with. Didn't work out for Tampa this time, but the thought process, hey, that's the American way. When a big corporation's writing checks, you take your shot at them. Bucs didn't get it this time.
Cashing checks right here on That Betting Show. Thank you for tuning in for Memorial Day, May 27, 2019, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. Back to your barbecues out there. He's Teddy Sabransky. Give him a follow once again on Twitter, at Teddy_Covers. I'm Donnie Seymour, right side BP. We'll be back tomorrow on Tuesday, and we'll preview the next Major League Baseball games and still get you ready for that NBA game on Thursday night. Enjoy your barbecues. Have a great night, and good luck, people.